Welcome back to Edge Apple Acres. I'm Cal, and in today's video we're catching a swarm of bees. I had a landowner call me that they had a swarm of bees, so I asked the normal questions. Are the bees clustered? Are they going into the trunk of a tree or a wall? And it sounds like they're clustered up in a tree. Also, they said they have some in the barn. So we're going to go see if we can get there before they leave. See if we can bring home some bees. I get there and I talk to the landowner. The bees in the barn left just a few minutes after they called me. And the bees in the tree moved from a limb about 8 feet up in the air to about 20 feet up in the air. Much higher than what I want to climb. I've got a pickup, I've got my ladder. I don't mind going up a little ways. I have a pole saw with me. So I look at it, I even put my ladder up in the bed of my truck, up against a tree, but it doesn't get me high enough. However, the landowner said he was fine with cutting the limb on that tree. He just wanted the bees gone. He did not sound like he was a fan of honeybees. So we put the ladder against the trunk of the tree and he cut that limb till the limb fell down. And he didn't cut all the way through this, so the limb just came down most of the way, so the bees were about 7 feet in the air. I put the box underneath it and I took some loppers. I don't know what their technical name is. I call them loppers, or cut sprouts or limbs. And I cut that limb off, and my goal was that they'd fall into the box. Missed estimating it just a little bit. So they fell some on the box, some next to it. So I get the limb down, I put the limb on top of the box. And I start waiting for the bees to come in. You can see the bees are working that way. It takes them a little bit. When you're catching a swarm of bees, I typically don't wear gloves, but I do have gloves if I need them. I usually put on a veil. Some people will not wear a veil when they catch a swarm. But over the years, I think with this particular swarm I got stung twice, but it was my fault on my hands smashing a bee. So I can't really count that against the honeybees. I caught a swarm one time that when I got to it, you can just tell by the buzz. They're just a little irritated, and they stung me a few times. But the worst time ever was I caught a swarm for this property owner in the edge of a town about 45 minutes from here, and the swarm was clustered on a fence post, and they had chain link fence inside the fence. So wooden rail fence with chain link fence on the inside. So I couldn't put my box under it and scoop them in very good. I had to work around that fence. But those bees were aggressive. They would follow me. I probably got stung a dozen times on my forearms. I had just taken my veil and I was in a t-shirt that day. I didn't even have my gloves with me. So since that time, I always take a pair of gloves. And to be honest, that swarm, I got stung. When I first started it and messed with it, I got stung. I continued to mess with it. I could have left at any point and stopped that, but I thought I would go ahead and get them and bring them home. I brought them home and I didn't have any more trouble out of them, which is kind of an odd behavior for a swarm. Usually a swarm won't sting you because a honeybee stings you to protect their home, and a swarm doesn't have a home. But that one over there wasn't good. So we get the limb on the box out here, and I've got the bees working into it, and they're going to that queen pheromone, the smell of the queen. They're trying to find her. So if you get the queen in the box, you're going to get most of the bees in there. So when I got most of the bees up on the limb, I knocked them off into the box, and then I put a lid on it most of the way to kind of restrict the airflow to cause that smell to come out. And when you do this just right, you can get the bees fanning the queen's pheromone out from the entrance, and the bees will just march right into that. Now, that sounds great, and I've seen it, and I see them fanning. In fact, when you look at the entrance on here, you'll see a few bees fanning. I'm not sure if I got that video because my camera died in the middle of this. I thought I had enough battery life. No. Moral of the story is always carry the extra battery. So you get it just right, those bees will fan that queen pheromone out, and the bees, all those worker bees, will just crawl right in. So I left there. I had most of the bees in the hive body, and there was a few flying around, so I'm sure a few got left, but most of them. I got them home. I left them shut up in there for a couple days. I like to do that because if you don't lock them in there for a day or two, they may abscond to a new home. They may find somewhere else. Also, what I like to do is in that hive body I took, I put 3 combs or 3 frames of old comb with empty combs with it. So they had some comb to immediately work with. Now, if you want to guarantee they don't leave, usually that's enough, and I block them in for a day or two. If you put a frame of open brood and you get them in there on it, they will not leave that open brood. At least I'll preface that with, I haven't personally done that because I'm always like, well, I hate to move that open brood in there just because I've got to plan ahead and everything, and I'm usually hurrying. But I hear that will keep us warm in place. They won't leave. As always, we appreciate you watching, and we encourage you to comment, like, subscribe, and share. We'll be seeing you more.